today is the 28th of Iyar. It's a fantastic day today. It happens to be Jerusalem Day, Yom Yerushalayim. So I thought I'll do a special edition. We're going to explore about this fantastic day. Miracles actually occurred over the time of the Six-Day War in 1960s. And we're now, and presently 58 years ago, that happened to be today. So many people will celebrate today, and we should celebrate, in my opinion, this amazing day. Now, you could say there's divides within regards to even the religious circles, especially a lot of the Jewish community many would say Hallel today. Some people would not, say Hallel without a bracha. And some people would just go as far as not saying Tachanun. Some people would say Nishmat Kol Chai and open the Aron HaKodesh. And then you have more people in the more ultra-Orthodox circles that might just make it as a regular day and will continue doing the regular services in of itself. But let's explore a bit within regards to Yom Yerushalayim here on the 28th of Iyar. I'm going to use two very informative articles, one from the Jerusalem Press and another article, I believe, used from the American Sephardi I think association. I think that's what it's called within. So just to get like an idea within regards to some of the different ideas about this specific day. Now you can speak to different communities. They will possibly take on different approaches of how to approach the day in of itself. Okay, let's just explore. I'm going to use the first article, the Jerusalem Press article. I just already said blessing on the coffee. Okay. Obviously, many people will see the images after the Six-Day War, what actually took place. Now, personally, from a family point of view, my father-in-law was a hero at the time of the Six-Day War, 1967. He went to the Kotel, like literally moments after, let's just say, this actually occurred. And there's a picture of him by the Kotel with his talit and tefillin on, and Rav Aryeh Levin with his talmidim, respectively, over there. So there's many indelible images from June 1967. I think there's echo of Mota Gor's battle cry, Har Habayit Biyadenu, the Temple Mount is in our hands. And many people, there was a defeat of the Syrian, Jordanian and Egyptian armies. There was obviously huge miracles of the unification of Yerushalayim and obviously the reclamation, let's just say, of the Temple Mount. We all saw the images of soldiers crying, kissing the Kotel, respectively. And famously at that point in time, the IDF's chief rabbi, Rav Sholem Goren, was holding a Torah scroll and blew the shofar and recited the beracha of Shechianu. Many people will be aware of that. I believe on Thursday, the 29th of Iyar, this was one day after the liberation of Jerusalem. Obviously, at that stage in time, the war was still being waged at the battlefield. The chief rabbis at that point in time was Rabbi Issa Yehuda Onterman and Rabbi Yitzchak Nissim. They were the Ashkenazi and Sephardi chief rabbanim, respectively. They called upon the synagogues at that point in time in Israel. This is what their opinion was. And in the diaspora to say Hallel and offer up festive prayers on Shabbat, giving thanks to Hashem for the wonders and miracles that was, let's say, bestowed. That was their opinion at that point in time. There was at that point in time the Motza'at Harabanut Harishit, meant to discuss establishing, let's say, a chag to commemorate these miraculous events. The idea was also discussed at, let's say, various different conferences of, let's say, rabbis at Heichal Shlomo, immediately following the festival of Shavuot. At that point in time, Shavuot naturally is just under a week and a half away. But with the initial euphoria following, let's just say, the Six-Day War, and other important matters to address, the item, let's just say, was spoken about, it was planned to speak about later. I think it was 5 months later, on the 28th of Tishrei, I think then the Motza'at Rabbanot Harishit would meet again, and they would discuss what to do about Yom Yerushalayim the next year. And I think at that point in time, Rav Unterman suggested commemorating the date on the 28th of Iyar, naturally Chavchet Iyar. That'll be the date when Jerusalem obviously was liberated. There was another great rabbi at that point in time, Rabbi Shaul Israeli. He preferred, was his opinion, was Rosh Chodesh Sivan. So he brought about several reasons why Rosh Chodesh Sivan as opposed to 28th of Iyar. He felt that the 28th of Iyar, it's too close to, let's say, Yom Ha'atzmaut. And obviously, we're not going to be able to celebrate it in its totality because it's on the same month. It's 23 days apart. Another reason, I think his reasoning was that the ceasefire was declared on Rosh Chodesh Sivan. So celebrating that day would be similar, let's just say his opinion, to how Purim was celebrated once the fighting had ceased and the people rested from their enemies. That was his opinion. Now, celebrating on Rosh Chodesh prevents any potential controversy over the recitation of Hallel, as Hallel obviously is recited on Rosh Chodesh, so it will satisfy potentially everyone's opinion, and no one can argue against it. So he's got some basis to rely on. So the decision was made to, let's say, a special committee came in, include other leading rabbis at that point in time in discussion. This was reported over in the Jewish press article. Rabbi Yosef Shalom Eliashib, Rabbi Yaakov Betzalel Solti. I think on the 8th of Tevet they met once again and decided by majority to establish the 28th of Iyar as, let's say, the date of the Chag for their reasons. Okay, now following its decision, the chief rabbinate sent a letter to 17 additional leading rabbis asking them to respond with suggestions on how this day should be observed. A conference of rabbis was called for the 3rd of Adar to discuss what tefillot, let's just say, prayers, should be recited and how to mark this special day over here. 38 rabbis were invited to the conference. Among them there was Dayanim, Admorim, even from the Haredi ultra-Orthodox community at that point in time. But only 11 participated. Remember, maybe some of them would not participate. Maybe they didn't agree with what the decisions would make. That could be following much discussion and debate. The following decisions were made. 1, to adopt the 28th of Iyar as a day of thanksgiving. Number 2, to recite Hallel without a blessing, consistent with the ruling of the chief rabbinate at the time regarding Hallel on Yom Ha'atzmaut. That was the third opinion. To request the government give a half-day vacation from work to encourage its citizens to celebrate. That's naturally, you'll see many people doing barbecues, picnics today, falafel fests, Yom celebrations. A lot of the national schools will do also. To celebrate with a festive meal. People will do barbecues. There was a breakfast this morning I went to locally. Further decisions to be made at a future meeting of the Motzaot HaRabbanut HaReshit were getting made. And there was also additional discussions and debate. A decision was made on the 17th of Adar. This was on the 28th of Iyar. Initially, let's just say, Yom Hodaya V'Simcha was proclaimed as a day of great victory of Israel over the enemies and liberation of Jerusalem, the holy city. It was celebrated by Jews in Israel and throughout the diaspora. Naturally, you see all over various different countries, many communities would have breakfasts on these days and everything else. What was things that were planned over here? The reading of Shirat Hayam, the recitation of Hallel with a bracha, according to some communities, a sermon publicizing the miracle following Hallel, the recitation of Tehillim, praise, and festive meals and celebrations. Now, the famous Rabbi Onselman noted at that point in time, celebration should suspend the customs of mourning for those who observe customs of mourning during the part of the Sefirot. Remember, I'm reading the Jewish press article over here, so some opinions over here, especially in the ultra-Orthodox circles, especially in the Lithuanian Chassidish circles, they would not necessarily follow this approach, and they would continue the day as if it's a regular day. Many of the communities would also, so I have to stress it out. So this I'm quoting from the Jerusalem Press article. Maybe 2-3 more minutes, that's okay? Yeah, sure. Okay, so in Iyar, the decision was made public, and Rabbi Unterman emphasized that this decision was for the first year alone, and there will be further discussions as how the day should be observed in the future. There was confusion, I think, and tension because it wasn't well publicized, I think, and the broader community was unsure as how the day should be observed. I think at that point in time there was a Mizrahi and the Hapoel Mizrahi movements publicized special tefillot for the night of Yom Yerushalayim. This includes the Tehillim, the Psalms of 136 and 122. They initiated festive meals, the lighting of candles, and the study of Masechet Midot, as the Rambam's Hilchot Beit HaBechira, let's just say, would be a way to celebrate the day. Now, once the day had been adopted by the chief rabbinate, the Ministry of Religion, I think there was a doctor of the name Zerach Wohaptig, he urged the government of Israel to declare national holiday. But there was concern over the recitation by Arabs to the celebration of the unification of Jerusalem. It prevented the government from making a decision. I think, in fact, the United States sent a message to Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressing its opposition to celebrating the victory as a national holiday. Now, 2 weeks before, I think it was Yom Yerushalayim on the 14th of Iyar, I don't know if this was the first Yom Yerushalayim, I think it was, the Israeli government decided it's best that the day be celebrated as a religious holiday and not a legal holiday. It wasn't until March 23rd in 1998, 30 years later, that the Knesset would pass the Jerusalem Day law, formally proclaiming the day a national holiday. So that's very interesting. In the years that followed the Chief Rabbinate's initial decision, Yom Yerushalayim would go through a number of differences, let's say changes. Obviously, Psalms of 20, 35, and 83. And both Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, and Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day, was added in 1969. And in 1972, they instituted the recitation of Yizkor. This is a memorial prayer for fallen soldiers. I think at that point, the election of Rav Shlomo Goren as the Ashkenazic chief rabbi would mean even more changes. Already while serving as the chief rabbi of the IDF at that point in time, I believe Rav Goren had created his own prayer service for Yom Ha'atzmaut, different to the chief rabbi. Remember, many people would not follow his prayer service, I believe in modern day, if I'm not mistaken, even among those communities, but that will have to be double-checked. Now, in the role of the chief rabbi of the State of Israel, he would institute his Tefillah Chagigit for Jerusalem Day as well. This will include Psalm 122 and the mission of Hu Rachum at Arvit, Mariv prayers over here. He would omit to that. In the morning, he instituted the festive Sukkot with the omission of Nishmat Kol Chai, similar to what is done on Hoshana Rabbah Hallel, without a bracha. Remember, even I think Rav Mezuz, he was the leading Tunisian Sephardi rabbi recently, would hold us saying Nishmat Kol Chai. Obviously, he would not say the Tachanun prayer and so on and so forth over here. He would say that the mission of Tachanun and Lam Natzach, an addition of prayer for the welfare of the State of Israel, and Misha Berach for the IDF in subsequent years of prayer should be said for the IDF. Rav Goren would change his mind about Hallel and encourage its recitation with a bracha, eventually instituting half Hallel at night without a bracha. He also instituted the recitation of Shekhinah. That was his opinion over here. This was not accepted, I think, by everyone. Now, Rav Ovadia Yosef would serve as a Sephardic chief rabbi at that point in time, did not agree with additions made by Rav Goren. He disagreed on some facts. He recognized, Rav Ovadia did, the miracles and wonders of the Six-Day War for a number of reasons. Rav Ovadia believed that it is too premature to recite Hallel with a bracha. Among his considerations, the opposition of many leading authorities to recitation of Hallel. There were a lot of Lithuanian Hasidic rabbis that would not say Hallel, so he took that into account. So, in light of the tragedy of many fallen and injured soldiers, that also occurred. So, could you say Hallel on that? King David did not institute Hallel following his conquest of Jerusalem. Rav Ovadia said that. And also think, our holy temple is still in ruin. So can we still say Hallel with a bracha? That was Rav Ovadia Yosef's thing. So Rav Ovadia Yosef at the end believed Hallel should be recited in the morning, not in the night, without a bracha at the conclusion of the service. He also held Tachanun should be omitted. That's Rav Ovadia Yosef. I think nearly all, the vast majority of Sephardi Rabbanim would hold to some degree to Rav Ovadia Yosef in this. I think in 1989, the chief rabbi, Rav Avram Shapira and Rav Mordechai Eliyahu would encourage the broader public to celebrate this day and added the recitation of Tehillim 91, 98, 107, and 122 before Arvit, and Psalm 125 of Lashana Abba before Arvit, in addition to the Psalms and prayers already recited by many on Yom Ha'atzmaut. They affirmed that the decision of Rabbi Ovadia and ruled that the members of Eidut Mizrach recite Hallel without a blessing at the conclusion of the prayers over here. But let's just say, over the decades, there was different gatherings, especially in the Kotel, Yeshivat Merkaz Rav, and there was different flag parades that have taken place. There was lack of clarity. There's confusion because there's changes and additions made throughout the religious Zionist community even. I think, and especially among the religious Zionist community, they all agree, obviously there's going to be a huge expression of joy about how this has got to be done. So there's different rabbinic organizations or different synagogues will come about with different customs, especially on this day, and all of that. Now we have to stress that many of the Lithuanian communities and Hasidic communities, it will be the regular tefillah on this specific day in of itself. That has to be stressed out. I can't speak about everyone, but I did speak about I did speak to Big Mekubal, so some of the Kabbalists actually, he held that this day is so powerful of Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom HaZikaron. A Big Mekubal told me it's not enough to say Halal on this specific day. Big Kabbalist did over here. So there's many different opinions on that day. This phenomenon is not new. Hanukkah was only instituted the following year, as we learned in Masechet Shabbat, page 21. And Purim too took time before it was firmly accepted by the sages. And they were initially reluctant in Purim. If you look at Masechet Megillah number 7b, perhaps Yom Ha'atzmaut, that's what the Jewish press article is saying, and Yom Yerushalayim at some stage will be more crystal clear, and soon, possibly, Am Yisrael will put aside differences and celebrate together as one. So I'm going to do a part 2, hopefully, in the next couple of hours on this, and wishing you all a fantastic day. Take care, and be well around. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel now.